think he knows he's alive, actually. And I never used to say that until I got indicted. Then I said, okay, now I can say it like it is. They said, well, we'll never indict a popular American president. Don't forget, I got more votes. We got more votes, all of us together, than any president. Think of it. Than any president, sitting president in the history of our country. Got more votes than any, by far, by a lot. And then lots of bad things happened, very bad. We can never let that happen again. They rigged the election, and look at the mess our country's in right now. Would have never happened, including inflation. Israel wouldn't have been attacked. Ukraine wouldn't have been attacked. China wouldn't be thinking about Taiwan, wouldn't even be thinking about it. There'd be no inflation. It was energy that caused it. We had inexpensive energy. We have more liquid gold under our feet, think of it, than any other country in the world, that we don't use it. We go to Venezuela to get their tar. It's so sad. It's so pathetic. From Joe Biden on down, they have thrown open our borders to an illegal alien invasion by the world's most sadistic criminals and savage gangs, while putting peaceful, pro-life citizens behind bars. We have a new category of crime. I said it last night for the first time. We did a show. Laura Ingraham, highest rating she's ever had. How about that? Don't we love that? What do I get out of it? I get nothing, so what difference does it make? What do they give me? Nothing. But there were a lot of people watching. But you just see what's happening. You see so many things happening that are just unthinkable. It's unthinkable that millions of people would be allowed into our country. It's unthinkable. Who would do this? They've unleashed mobs of foreign jihadists to praise Hamas in our streets. They're praising Hamas. While they slander law-abiding Americans as domestic terrorists. You heard the J6 hostages. You saw the spirit that these people have. The spirit, you would think they wouldn't have any spirit left, but they have tremendous spirit. What's happened to them has probably, to that extent, never happened in our country before. They're weaponizing law enforcement to target parents, conservatives, and Catholics. Catholics. More than anybody, Catholics. What's going on with Catholics? Do we have any Catholics in this audience? Raise your hand, please. I just want to see. Not too many, but I will tell you, how the hell do you vote for this person? They have gone after Catholics. That's probably why we don't have any of this audience. There are none left. But there's one sitting in first row, and he's a very important one, I will tell you. No, but how Catholics? I mean, they're being persecuted, Catholics. But evangelicals, and they're all on the list. For all Americans, but especially for Christians, nothing is more important than to defeat this wicked system and to return to fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. You have to return to the constitutional rule of law. We're not there. There's much work to be done, but there is no doubt where we have to begin. We have to begin, and we have to begin immediately. The restoration of law and justice in America begins with firing crooked Joe Biden on November 5th, 2024. If we don't fire him, our country, I believe, is doomed. I believe it's doomed. As you know, the left is trying to shame Christians. They try and shame us. I'm a very proud Christian, actually. I've been very busy fighting and, taking the bullets, taking the arrows. I'm taking them for you, and I'm so honored to take them. You have no idea. I'm being indicted for you, as I say. I'm being indicted over and over and over. I've been indicted more than Al Capone, the great gangster. Scarface. My parents are looking down. They said, you believe this happened to me? I never heard the word before, essentially. I never heard the word before. Think of it. I've been indicted more than some of the greatest criminals in the world. For nothing. For nothing. If my plane flies over a blue state, that evening I get a subpoena to report to a federal grand jury. Al Capone would have dinner with somebody. If he didn't like the look on his face, he'd kill them. He never gets indicted. No. What they're doing is very dangerous for our country. You see it. You see the support I have? Look, this never happened before. When somebody goes through this kind of stuff, they immediately go to the microphone. They say, I will be leaving office now. I will be home. I'm going home and love my family and cherish my family and fight for my name. And that's the last you ever see of this poor person. With me, I get indicted and my numbers go up. What the hell is going on? Because the people know it's a scam. They understand it. They know we're being scammed. True. It's so true. They want to silence you, demoralize you, and keep you out of politics. Stay the hell out of politics. If I wasn't running, and if I wasn't leading by a lot, you see the polls today, I'm up by 12 points and 14 over crooked Joe Biden. And in a national poll, I'm up by 91 points on I won't use the term because some people think it's a little bit nasty, but some people you don't like very much. Haley, I'm up 91 points. That's a lot. And in South Carolina, Nikki Haley is losing to me. It looks like she's going to lose by 25 or 30 points. That's a lot. She's governor, but people don't like her too much, and she's hurting the party. But I don't care. Let her run, because think of it, if she's not running, they're not talking about us. So maybe it's better if she runs a little bit. But she's not doing well, and we can't let it happen. We have to stick together as a party. We have enough of a fight on whether you call it the radical left or the communists or the fascists or whatever you want to call them. That's our fight, and we have to save our country. But Christians, they can't afford to sit on the sidelines in this fight. They have to really get out there. They have to do what they have to do, and they have to win. The corrupt persecution by this regime will not stop with me. Oh, it's not going to stop with me. I mean, they gave me a fine of $355 million for doing nothing wrong. This was a fine like never seen before. And the amazing thing, the people in this country, they understood it immediately. It's all a big hoax. If I wasn't running, I wouldn't have been sued. None of these indictments would happen. And if I wasn't, once I started winning, I said to my wife, I said, our great First Lady who sends her regards, she loves everybody in this room. But I said, when I saw these numbers where we're way ahead, I said, oh, this is going to be painful. I'm going to probably get another 12 indictments in the next week or two. Although they're backfiring, I know I heard in one case they were getting ready to do it and they got a call from Washington, don't do it, we're going to indict this guy into office. But they're bad people. The chains are already tightening around all of us. I mean, if you think about it, ultimately the radical left is coming after all of us because they know that our allegiance is not to them. Our allegiance is to our country, and our allegiance is to our Creator. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. How any Christian can vote for a Democrat, Christian or person of faith, how you can vote for a Democrat is crazy. It's crazy. They've got to stop. They've got to stop because it's hard. You know, we have to really go out on November 5th and we have to get votes like nobody ever got before because they always cheat. We have some great safeguards, a lot of things. The last time, well, we won one that we weren't supposed to win. They went crazy and they decided to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And we were somewhat unsuspecting, and they did something that really has set back our country tremendously. But we're going to get votes. I will tell you, we did phenomenally in 2016. We won. We did much better in 2020. We got millions and millions of more votes, and we got scammed. And the enthusiasm was probably the likes of which nobody's ever seen in an election in this country for both of them. The enthusiasm for this election coming up in November is far greater than it was in 2016 or 2020. Far greater. It's not even a contest. I've never seen anything like it. Even coming over here, everybody has a Trump sign. Trump, Trump, Trump. And, you know, unfortunately, we're still 9 months away, a little more than 9 months away. And the sad part is that the incompetence of this man and this administration can do tremendous damage in 9 months. And that's a long time. You know, 9 months sounds like it's short, and it, politically speaking, is pretty short. It's not a long period. But the damage they do is just overwhelming, what they're allowing to happen to our country. What they cannot stand is that, in the end, we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. We do. We answer to God in heaven. So today I come before you as a friend and an ally and a fellow believer to ask for your help and your support and your prayers for this country. We need your prayers, most importantly. And I make you a simple promise. In my first term, I fought for Christians harder than any president has ever done before. You know that. You know that. And I will fight even harder for Christians with 4 more years in the White House. We did things that the likes of which nobody has ever done for Christians in this country, and I'm very proud of that and honored by it. Just think of what, with God's help, we already achieved in our historic first term. Just a few of the things under my leadership and working with you and a lot of the great people in the room. Jack, thank you very much, by the way. You see you sitting there. Everyone knows who I'm talking about. Thank you very much. Great job. And so many others. Under my leadership, we did more to uphold religious freedom than any administration in history, and everybody agrees. So, Robert, I guess you were right, weren't you, huh? We fearlessly protected the conscience rights of doctors, nurses, teachers, and faith groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor. We fought very hard alongside of them. And we had some incredible results. I blocked the IRS from using the Johnson Amendment to interfere with pastors' freedom of speech. And Joe Biden is trying to take it back. He's trying to take it away. They use that. I'll never forget, I was in New York in Trump Tower. It was 2015. I had probably 45 pastors, some rabbis. But we had people of faith and teachers of faith and very people I want to hear from. And I said, I'd love to have your endorsement. And they looked a little bit like bewildered. Because I didn't know what the hell. I never ran for office before. Now I'm running for president. I'm leading. And I say, I want to have your endorsement. And they said, no, I don't. We just can't do that. I'm wondering, because they had come up 2 or 3 times. We got along great. We all agreed on just about everything. But when I said, I'd love to have your endorsement, the room went sort of silent. And I called one of them over and I said, what's wrong? I don't understand. Why wouldn't you endorse me? I mean, the person you're talking about, and you could go either way, whether it's Biden or Hillary Clinton. I don't use the word crooked for her. I took that word away from her and I put it now on Biden. I call her now beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. But I said, why aren't they endorsing me? I'm so much better. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I am so much for what you are all about, and what you're about is the most important thing. They said, so we're not allowed to. We have a thing called the Johnson Amendment. I never heard of that. I said, what is it? Well, if we openly support somebody, politically, we could lose everything. They'll take away, we have a tax-exempt status. They'll take that away. Churches will be devastated. We'll be devastated. I said, I never knew that. This was Lyndon Johnson, very powerful president, actually, powerful guy. He knew how to get things done, and he had a problem with, I guess they say, a pastor in Houston or Dallas, big problem. And he did this. He put this horrible rule into effect, and it was a very strong rule. And I said, so, and we were on the 68th floor of Trump Tower, and we're looking down on Fifth Avenue. I said, so that means that any person down there has equal power to you people, and you're the people that everybody wants to listen to, but you're not allowed to back that up because you need some political strength. They said, essentially, that's right. We can't really do anything because we'll lose tax-exempt status and other things. And I said, that's too bad. I said, if I get in, we are going to totally void out the Johnson Amendment. And I was able to do that. We voided it out. And you were able to speak because you're the people that I want to hear from and that other people want to hear from. And you're not allowed to speak. And you should be allowed. If you see somebody that believes in Christianity, if you see somebody that loves evangelicals or Israel, which has become more and more prominent in your thoughts and your prayers. You should be able to vote and to promote the person that's backing the ideas that you love and cherish, and it's very important. So I thought it was the most ridiculous thing. Anyway, we got rid of it, and people took a much more active stance, and that's great. And we're going to do it again, and we're going to get it out now permanently. We were putting it in the text, but we had tremendous bite back on that. But for 4 years, we went through a great period. You were able to speak, and we're going to make that on a permanent basis. You're going to be able to do it because you're the people we want to hear from, the pastors and the ministers and the rabbis. The people in this room are the people we want to hear from, and they have to have a political voice. You know, if you think about it, you have men, you have women, and you have religion. If you look at it, you have more than the men, you have more than the women. You have such power, but you weren't allowed to use that power, and you're now allowed to use it. I get in there, you're going to be using that power at a level that you've never used it before. It's going to bring back the churchgoer. I mean, you have to see. I don't like the charts. When I see charts where they're going in the wrong direction, we don't like that. We're going to bring it back, and I really believe it's the biggest thing missing from this country. It's the biggest thing missing. We have to bring back our religion. We have to bring back Christianity in this country. Thank you. Thank you very much. I issued guidance making clear that the right of freedom to worship does not end at the door at a public school, and I supported school prayer, very important, school prayer, which we unfortunately had to force into some schools. It should be very easy. You would think it would be very easy, but it wasn't, but we did it. I was the first and only president to convene a meeting of the United Nations to end religious persecution worldwide. First time they've ever done it. They were not thrilled, but that was okay. They did it. I signed an executive order to install faith advisors in every federal department and agency so that your voice and the Christian worldview would be heard in the halls of power in Washington and all over the world. It was a very big deal. Very proud of it. Wasn't that easy to do, you know that. 4 years, we totally transformed the federal bench, appointing nearly 300 federal judges to interpret the law and the Constitution as written, a record, 300. I withstood vicious attacks to pick and confirm 3 great Supreme Court justices. The great justices, great people. They're great people. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. Nobody thought that was going to even be possible. We fought. This was not an easy thing to do. From my first day in office, I took historic action to protect the unborn, like nobody has ever done. Nobody has ever done it. Thank you. I reinstated and expanded the Mexico City policy. Ronald Reagan didn't do it. Nobody did it. Nobody did it like us, and was the first president ever to attend the March for Life rally in Washington, D.C. It was a great honor. And I was able to bring this issue for the first time in 54 years back to the states where everybody agrees on both sides. Everybody agrees that's where it should be, back in the states. It was so important. Everybody on both sides. And they are the radicals. Remember this. They try and paint a picture of disinformation, misinformation, almost the same, but actually not quite. But we won't go into that. But it's disinformation. And they try and paint a picture because they're willing to kill the unborn in the 6th and 7th and 8th and 9th months, and even after birth. I mean, even after birth. You remember the governor, that former governor of Virginia, that said, the baby will be born and we will decide to kill the baby after birth. We will make a decision with the mother. This is the first time I heard that. But there is legislation in some states where you actually have the right to do that. So they're the radicals. You're not the radicals. We're not the radicals. They're the radicals. And you have to say that. Politicians have to say that. Because nobody believes that after a certain period of time, nobody believes that you should be doing this. It's like 97% agree. We also have to remember that we have to have people elected. So some things that you feel, and you have to go with your heart. You have to stay with that. You have to stay with your heart. But you have to get elected. You have to get people elected. But what a difference a president makes. You saw that during my term. What a difference a president makes. So big. Bigger than anything else. As I mentioned earlier, under Crooked Joe Biden, pro-lifers are now being hunted down by the Biden regime as enemies of the state. Can you believe that? The same Biden DOJ that dropped charges against Antifa, where they kill people, where they destroy cities. Take a look at Portland. You can't even walk down the street. It's just, they don't even have storefronts anymore. They use 2x4s because if they put up a piece of glass to show their wares, it gets knocked out. Well, most of the stores are empty, so it doesn't matter. But take a look at what they did there. Take a look at what happened in Seattle, where they took over a big portion of the city. They literally took it. If I wasn't going to send in the troops, we were sending in the troops the next day. All of a sudden, they decided to leave. But the governor didn't want to do it. The governor didn't want to do it, and would have never done it. They'd still be there if I didn't do what I did. You take a look at Minnesota, Minneapolis. You take a look at what they were doing with that. If I didn't send in the National Guard, and the governor didn't want it, and if I didn't send it, you wouldn't have that city anymore. I remember the CNN announcer saying, this is a nonviolent protest. And behind him, the entire city was burning to the ground. Do you remember this? This is nonviolent in every way. I don't see a problem. And he also got hit on the knee with something, and he went down. And the city behind him was burning. I never saw anything like it. But they're fake news. What should I say? I think one of the terms, they say, you come up with good names. I said, maybe fake news was the best. They're fake news. You know, when I first started, fake news. When I first started, the press had a very high rating. People actually believe them. You know, you think you read something in the New York Times, it's true. It's usually the opposite. The Russia hoax, they kept it going. It was supposed to be a one-day deal. It was a way of explaining why Hillary Clinton lost the election that a lot of people thought she was going to win. Most people, I guess, thought that. I didn't think it, because we'd go to rallies with 45,000 people, and she'd show up and they'd have 25 people show up. I said, it's true, why are we going to win? But we won that, and the news just went crazy. And it was supposed to be a one-day event, Russia, and let's get on to running the country. But that went on for 2.5 years. And then they had the Mueller report, and it came in, no collusion. But I could have told them that on day one. And they would have known that on day one. They should have known it, because they had the laptop from hell, so they should have known it. You have to say, that was truly the laptop from hell, wasn't it? Miranda Devine wrote a great book on it. And she was very nice. She credited me. She said, I got the name from Donald Trump. I saw him calling it the laptop from hell, and she named her book The Laptop from Hell. It was very, very successful. I didn't get anything out of it, though, Miranda. But it was a good book. It was. Can you imagine if they didn't? Can you imagine if he would have gone and picked up the laptop? David, it would have been a whole different country out there for them. But that is and what they have is peanuts compared to what's on that thing. If that were from the other side, if that were Republican instead of them, the things that are on that are unbelievable, unexplainable. The same Biden DOJ that dropped charges against Antifa has rounded up 6 pro-life activists right here in Tennessee, arresting them for a peaceful protest outside a clinic where they prayed, sang hymns, and were removed with great force. Last month, those protesters were convicted on outrageous charges and are now facing up to 11 years in prison. This is a communist state, just so you understand. This is the beginning of a communist state. Whether it's me or any one of another 1,000 things that are going on, this is the only way they're going to be able to stay in office, because they're running a regime that's so incompetent. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Everything they do, high interest rates, the open borders. I don't think there's ever been anything so egregious that we've seen as these open borders, where these millions of people are allowed to just come into our country and invade this country. You saw that mountain? We built the wall, all of these hundreds of miles of wall. We ended it at that mountain. They said, nobody can go over that mountain. And we put a boom right into that wall. We figured at least we had something done that was good. The people are pouring over. It's sort of known as Steak Mountain, Steak Hill, Snake. It's snake, a lot of snakes. I think they're rattlesnakes. Between the rattlesnakes and the rough terrain and the steepness, they said, nobody's coming. The people are coming over by the thousands. It's crazy. And we let them come over. We let them do it. Our country can't withstand, no country can withstand what's happening to us. The cities are being inundated. They're being overrun. They're taking the parks from children. There are no more baseball fields, no more soccer fields, no more anything. It doesn't sound very serious. Soccer fields and baseball fields are very serious. Their way of life has changed. And they're being treated better than long-time American citizens, and they're being treated better than our soldiers, our veterans are being treated. They're staying in world-class hotels. The whole thing is crazy, what's happening in our country. Let's call these brave Americans what they really are, persecuted Christians. They're being persecuted. And let's call their imprisonment. They are being imprisoned by Joe Biden and his people, evil people. He's surrounded by very evil people. They are, I believe, just doing whatever they want to do. I don't believe they have any leadership at all. Joe Biden, because of his gross incompetence, is a threat to democracy, big threat to democracy. To reverse these monstrous abuses of power, the moment I win the election, I will appoint a special task force to rapidly review the cases of every political prisoner who has been unjustly victimized by the Biden regime. Never again will the federal government be used to target religious believers. They are targeting religious believers. What they did to all of you, a lot of ground was lost by religion during COVID, during the China virus. Let's be more accurate. Called the China virus. We want to be accurate, have to be accurate, or you'll get criticized. You'll get criticized by the fake news. But Americans of faith are not a threat to our country. Americans of